Alright, I think we're coming back here. It completely crashed out, folks. I think it's coming back, though. I have no idea what's up with that. That was definitely a Twitch thing. Something happened, I guess, with the OBS was running fine. As far as the streaming software is, that's definitely on the Twitch end. I don't know what the heck caused that. Apologize for that, folks. So I'm probably going to have to piece this stream together, unfortunately. Okay, just making sure everything is coming back here. I think, did we lose everybody? Hopefully not. Are the audios coming through? I guess let me know there. Put some emotes out there, or put some F's in chat, something, I guess, and let me know, I guess, as far as everything's going good. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. So I don't even know how long it went back there. I'm gonna have to probably... There we go, just checking everything out. I know the bot was still up there too, that didn't crash. So yeah, that was definitely a Twitch thing. Nothing I could do about that, unfortunately. That was definitely all on the Twitch end. Kind of stinks. Now I'm gonna have to really button this up, I guess, a little bit closer. I'm gonna have to download this and piece this deal together, unfortunately. That stinks. That's more work I don't need to do. So yeah, I'm gonna bring this thing to a pretty quick close here, as far as like, so I can keep this. I usually like to keep these within 4 hours anyway, so it just makes it easier. So I'm gonna have to download that, edit it, so I can piece them together so that they're not two separate streams. That's unfortunate. I didn't really want to have to do that, but anyway, where I got rudely interrupted there. Let's bring this on over. Let's bring it on back over. So what we was going over there before that happened was I wanted to get the original files that I got from Torch, I guess, as far as the resized. So what I'm thinking probably happened, as far as to get that magenta bleed, was the it didn't get separated out like I was showing there previously in the paint program. So it probably had bleed in there, so I wanted to look at it that way. So that's not the one I want. I want I remember which one it was in now. So it was in here. So it would be based on this texture, and that is at 4096. I'll be damned. Okay, so maybe it did start. So I did take it down from a 4096 to a 1024. That's a pretty big. But what I want to do, so it is the same file. It is the one from 16. So I guess it doesn't matter which one I go by. I'll just go by this one here that Torch had sent me in his updates. It's basically the same file though, between this one and James's original files. As we can see here, it's the same deal. That's okay. So that hasn't been reduced, I guess, from the 4096. I guess it's a pretty big, beefy guy. So let's put this back into our track unpack here. Split Skull coming in. You stopped by mine. Let's figure stop by yours. Hey, no problem. I just had a bit of a yeah. Stream just went dead. I just came back on, actually. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to edit that stream. I guess kind of piece those together, but that's yeah. So I'm gonna probably be buttoning this up there pretty quickly there. I don't want to go too much longer. I usually like to keep them within 4 hours anyway on these streams, just to kind of keep them not so. A lot of information, I guess, has been gone over there. That's for sure. The Split saved it. Might have. I don't know. I was able to go back live again, pretty quickly. The fact that it kind of borked out there gets a little bit. I'm not really sure. So yeah, basically, what I did was I put back the wingfoot texture for that. So that is at a 4096, even what I got from Torch. So I took it from a 4096. That is crazy. The fact that that's at a now I don't know which priority you had it at. Let me look at that really quick and I'll think of that. That should only be a 1.33. So the fact that I took it down to a 683, if you remember, when I took it down to a 1024, and clearly when I put it into PaintShop Pro, it was showing as a 2048. So the fact that it should have been a 1.33, but it's really going to depend on which priority you put it at too. So if the priority is higher, it's going to make that file size bigger. So that's just another thing I guess I take into consideration as far as how you create your textures. That is not what I wanted. I want to go here, here, third party, Dover, and then go to Wingfoot 1. So this is the original texture. It's a pretty beefy boy. And so the priority, yeah, so you got it 1110. So it's a 2048, but this is the same file that I spit out there as a 2048, but man, is it beefy. Personally, you know, I would consider, I guess, as far as like, but what I want to look at, putting it back into its original state, at least anyway, I want to look at if there was any bleed in this in the first place. So now we got this texture in here. I'm going to open up the track with the original texture and see if there was any bleed in it. Because if there was, and you try to downscale it, I guess from with the track already have the object already having that bleed in the texture, it's going to still exist, even once you resize it. So priority 2 million. No, it was just at a 1, but I think at the fact that it's at a 1110 and 3, that's probably what's creating the beefiness. Usually the priority will necessarily make it when you increase that in priority, especially something that big, it will increase the size of the texture file size too. But that's not what I witnessed there. So what I want to look at here, with this new original texture applied, these light poles are starting to bug me too out here. In fact, I got some of these floating, and they're kind of sticking around, and I know that's something that you'll look at towards I guess eventually, but you got some of these poles are stuck in trailers, and some of them are even floating. Okay, so what we're going to look at, I'm getting too sidetracked, is does this have bleed? It does not. So it was probably something that I did wrong. But that's one thing you'll probably necessarily deal with if in comparison. So probably one of the other approaches I could take to it when I downsize it would make sure that I don't have any, just I got softer edges on this. And it would be pretty easy to do. It's not too complicated. So when you downscale, what basically happens, especially even if it's at that size to the size that I took it to, it's going to create a soft edges. And especially in areas that have transparency, you're going to get that. So it really comes down to you would have to clean up those edges to make sure it doesn't have that soft edge to create that bleed. So that doesn't automatically create the necessity to have to create a TI. Say, oh, I got to create a TI because I got bleed. No, that's you don't need to do that. This is a very simple piece here. Now, if it was a more complex type of texture that had more areas that would have to be addressed, I guess as far as that might create necessity to do that. But there's other ways to get around that instead of using a TI. Don't ever try to use a TI just because you're getting magenta bleed. That's not a very good excuse to get to use TI, especially with a texture this size, because you're definitely going to double the size from what it is already. So that's really going to be up to having it at 2048 and that size, it's probably going to be minimal because it's only that one object with that texture. But if one did want to downsize it, just like I did, and deal with that magenta bleed there, as far as to, it can be cleaned up. So let me go through the process here again. So let's open it up here. I forgot I had this one open, actually. Let's go to, we'll go to that track again. We'll just focus on this a little bit. I want to get into the reflap stuff for a little bit, just to kind of show that, so I don't want to forget about that. I'm going to go to Dover. Where the hell am I? I'm in my stuff. Third party, there we go. Again, in the right folder, you dummy. Dover. And then we want to go to Wingfoot 1, that bitmap. We're going to go through that process here again really quick. Got a lot of textures in here. Alright, so this is at the 2048 original texture. Just to kind of verify that. So, oh, nope, this is the 1024. I forgot about that. I forgot I resized that. So what I'm going to have to do is delete that one from our track edit folder, because that's our resize. I guess if anything, what I could do, let's do this. Again, just to address that magenta bleed that you got, this is a relatively small area. It's not that bad. So what I could probably do, just with this bitmap here, which is all resized, and even though I did do it, see it curates to the soft edge here, and that's probably why you're getting bleed. What you can do, one way to go about it, is to take this magic wand, and I'm going to change the tolerance here, like so. First one I want to do is actually promote this to a layer. That's what I always have to do here in Paint Shop, so I can do this. Otherwise, if I don't, it's just going to create whatever I have in my swath. It's going to put that color in there. That's what I don't want. So whatever you have in your swath, if you don't promote that to a layer, it's not going to cut that area out. So if I do this, yeah, so you can kind of see as I change the tolerance on here, it's going to cut out more and more, I guess, of that bleed. So let's keep trying to bump up this tolerance here just to see what result we get. I'm going to put it closer to 100. So the fact that I'm clicking on that magenta area, it's only going to try and pick up based on that tolerance just the areas that are pink. So we get a little bit better result there. So what we will be able to do this way, by getting that magenta bleed out of there, there's a little bit in there, it's not too bad. We can probably bump the tolerance up just a little bit more. Back this up a bit. Let's put it more to 100. We'll go a little bit over 100. So yeah, see, now you can see it's going a little bit over the pink, so I don't want to do that. Tone it down a little bit until we get a nice balance here. That's pretty good. So I'm looking all the way around here to see, no, I don't have any bleed on there. Got a lot cleaner edge, taking a lot of that soft edge out. Much better result there. Same goes here. Get this area, boom. Now what I can do from here, as I still got a layer here, I can do it one of two ways. I can flood this back in with some magenta, so I can get that swath. For that, I can put in the wind map too, or I can do another layer. That wheel texture looks so fake now. I would model a 3D whatever. But up in the sky, you really can't tell. That is clearly Photoshop cylinder with gradient. Yeah, I mean, it still looks good in my opinion. I don't think it looks that terrible. But I mean, if you wanted to put, you know, a more realistic type of wheel on it, that's totally up to you. I'm not going to go into that. I'm just kind of showing how you can get rid of that magenta bleed at this point. What you want to do to the texture, I guess that's totally on you, because as far as to adjust that. What we know then as opposed to what we know now is definitely different. So what I'll do in this case here, a couple different options. I could flood this in that same layer. Okay, so there's the original layer there. I cut that all out. I can take and flood this with the magenta. So this is one way I can do it. And this is a very simple area, so it's not that complex as far as to fill that back in. I can do it this way. Okay, that should get rid of all them soft edges and the bleed. So that's one way to do it. Or I can go this way with this new layer, flood that new layer that's behind it. Whoops, I'm gonna put it behind it. Come on, move down, you son of a gun. There we go. And then you can do it that way. So that's just one of two ways you can do it. I can go layers, flatten that, pan this out, and then save it that way. Now I shouldn't get any bleed this time. Should not get any bleed with that. Actually, yeah, this is the 1024. Just to kind of reconfirm that. This is the 1024 that we resized. So we want to compare this. We'll make a new MIP. Look at our wing foot and sandbox and whatever with this new texture doing what we just did. So we'll do file save as, new bitmap. Okay, and then we'll go into where that's at here, and we'll make a new MIP. So open this up in our handy dandy WinMip 2. I don't know why it changed that. Let's put this back to medium. There we go. And open that up. This is our 1024. Keep that in mind. So I'm going to select that swath, left shift, select that so it puts that swath. MIP, I'm going to leave that all just like that. Now you can see it went from 11, 10, and 3 to a 10, 11, 3, and that's because of the new downscaled size. So the bigger size needs more sub-images. That's going to be a higher number. But in most cases, you don't need to adjust any of that. Save as. We do a MIP. Yes, I want to overwrite that. Okay. Close that. Close out WinMIP 2. Now we can open this up in Sandbox. Now, in order to get that image, this is still with the original image, so I have to, in order to get that, so don't go by this. You can't refresh objects in Sandbox. You have to completely reopen the track. So we're going to do a new. So just like you do have the reload MIPs, as far as like that does not reload MIPs for textures. It's only for geometric pieces, as far as your walls, your track textures and stuff like that. It does not do it for objects. Definitely want to make that clear. So that reload MIPS that's on there, it does not do it for objects. You have to completely reload the track in order for the textures to refresh on objects. So if you go back on here, we should not have any magenta bleed. We got a little bit, but it's much better. So it does kind of pixelate a little bit more, I guess, on that. That can be cleaned up even further as far as just to add you can clean that up, but you can kind of see the difference there as far as like the two different methods that I use as far as to resize that texture. Now, probably if you were to apply a more realistic type of wheel, as far as to make it more realistic, using a real leg or whatever you want to do, that would probably even remove some of the ugliness, some of the curves off of that as well. But even from a distance there, that's not going to look bad. I don't think that looks terrible at all. But no magenta bleed anymore, and that's what they're resized. So regardless of whether or not you want to go that route, that's up to you all. I'll leave that up to you. In my opinion, it definitely has room, I guess, to be able to resize it. All right, last thing I want to go over here before I finally bring this thing to an end. Came to that abrupt end there, unfortunately, but I want to close this thing up here rather quickly. I'm going to go into the sim, and I'm going to touch a little bit on reflap as far as to show all the different things. Now I'm thinking with what we saw the behavior of the AI as far as where they were trying to clip into that front stretch pit wall. Yeah, better with a second layer? Yeah, it probably is. But you can do it either way, as far as to flood it or just to use a second layer. And it's really going to depend on which paint program you use, because sometimes I've noticed in other paint programs what will happen is when you flatten the images, it'll tend to kind of press it down and create another soft edge. Some cases that's not going to be satisfactory, I guess, to do it that way. So it may just behoove just to go ahead and flood it in the same layer that you use the magic wand, I guess, to chunk that out. So it just depends on what result you get as opposed to using a separate layer or not. That's really what it comes down to. No problem. I'm just going to be getting into the reflap stuff here. So that's something I'm going to go into really quick here. That's about the only thing left I want to go through, at least anyway. It's still got this second. My system actually is. Oh, I noticed that's probably why it quit on me as far as my, God dang it, I wish I knew why it was doing that. I think I understand why that quit on me now. I think my, video card overheated because my Precision X went down. I don't know why it does that. I do not understand that at all. I think that's why it did, though. Let's do this. This thing keeps quitting. It just stops. I don't know why. This is probably going to get loud, so. Not too bad. But I'm guessing I just noticed that was off, so that might have been part of the reason why. I just noticed in my tasks here that was not going. I have no clue why that quits on its own. In fact, let me go into this really quick. So it did get up to 151 Fahrenheit. That's not cool. that was on the 1st of October, so that wasn't as of recent. We are on the 3rd. Okay. That's nasty. I don't even remember when it did that, to be honest. So that wasn't as of recent. So nope, I guess that wasn't the fact that that closed on its own, that's still would have been an issue to me, but I don't think that was the cause of that. It was definitely on the Twitch end, because everything was running fine. I was just talking away. Software was going. It wasn't until you guys had mentioned that the stream had went right. That's totally what you can do there, Torch. That's what's the beauty of the VODs. When we'll probably need to piece these two together. I guess I could kind of keep it both together. I guess as far as that, I could probably just do it as a part too. I could do that as well. I may just end up doing that as far as just as a part too, because it's such a pain in the butt to get the VOD downloaded, splice that together, and all that jazz. It's a pain. It kind of stinks that happened. I know I'm complaining, but I got every right to. That should not have happened. Should not have happened. All right, so profiler. That's what I was looking for. I need to go into. We got to do all this in testing mode. Make that clear. All right. I don't really need camera control master, so I'll just load it through here. So the way you access the... I forgot I still had the wheel overlay up there too. Apologize for that. Give this a second to load. Alright, there we go. So we want to do this all in testing mode. It doesn't matter which mod you use. You can use whichever mod that you choose. This as long as it's in testing for the track. So the way you go into this, and there's a video we have on... I'm pretty sure I've got it linked from the SPP track, SPP on the Rock Nation YouTube as well. You can do !YT. There's plenty of information as far as the reflap utility. So a lot of this is going to be summary, but I just wanted to kind of look at in this track as far as how the LPs look, so we can kind of observe what the behavior was going on, because it may necessarily be the offsets in the track INI itself. So that's what I want to take a look at here. So let's go into drive, and I'm going to go into what we could consider to be the Jesus mode. Okay, and then to access, it's several key combinations here that you got to apply to get the reflap in testing mode enabled. So you got to do Control Alt Shift, and then right above your tab key, usually right next to your 1 key, is the tilde. Okay, and that right up to the top left of the screen, you can see it brings up some information for reflap. Now, what I did not do, and I'm not creating any new LPs or anything like that, I just want to look at them. I do have a profile set up on my wheel to be able to map the button that you would need to stash LPs as you're creating your race LP. I'm not going through that. The video that I have on the YouTube channel necessarily does explain a lot of that a little bit more in detail. What I just want to look at is just how the LPs are laid out. I just want to be able to look at it. So there's several key combinations that you put in here, I guess, to get everything I need here. I need to get my cheat sheet here for a second. Give me a moment. I can't remember them all. I'm going to be perfectly honest. All those key combinations that you would need to use for the reflap is definitely in the comments, either the comments or the description of that video on YouTube. So I'll just leave it that way. I'll probably look and see if I do have it there on the YouTube channel once I'm done with this processor. Just give me a second here. I'm going to find my little cheat sheet here that I have on. Let's see here. Okay. Alright, so yeah, like I said, all this information is available. Even on the Rock Nation Discord, I can kind of show all this, I guess, once I go through all this. But we've already got the reflap up. So to get the working reflap up there, we want to shoot, which one is it now? Where's the toggle for? Oh, there it is. Gotta look down the line there, dummy. So yeah, you want to use Control tilde. This is all left control. I know that a lot of this doesn't show there. So the Control tilde brings up the. Now you see the orange cones that are on the track. That's what's considered your working LP. Basically, if you're going to stash LPs to make LPs, which I'm not going to do, that's where those will go when you save them. So that's all that's for. So that's to let me know that that gives me further clarification that the reflap utility is on. And that's, like I said, this left control I, or tilde, I should say, right next to the 1 key in most cases on most keyboards. So that brings that up. Now to look at all these other ones, I want to look at, say for example, the race in the race line. I want to do left control 0. That turns that one on. That's the race line. You can see that's right up the middle of that groove, as far as that gradient that we see there in the groove. Okay, there's control 1. That's going to be your min race line, which is usually to the top and to the right side of the race line. And then you've got your max race line, which is left control 2. That's going to be your max race line. That's going to be on the left side of your race line in most cases. So all those look fine. Those I don't need to worry about. What I want to look at is the pit lines, which in this case are, these are all, so you got, depending on your track, in most cases you're going to have at least pit 0. In some cases you might have pit 1. In this case we only have the pit 0, so to bring all those on, we do a left control 3, 4, and 5. So 3, 4, and 5. You can turn all those on. So let's look at those. So these will mostly go all the way throughout the apron of the track. So I want to take a look at these, especially around the pit entrance area, and see how these look. So the red lines are all the pit lines. The one in the middle is the pit lines. You can see they merge right there. That's usually not a good thing to do in most cases, because they will wreck into each other at some point, especially if you got a couple cars coming out at the same time. So if you can keep those as separated as possible, that's usually better. Yeah, so the fact that these are crossing over, you don't want to do that. Let's see what's going on here at pit entrance here. So yeah, see how they cross over a little bit? They get a little bit close to each other. So maybe a little bit of adjustment onto these, because you want, typically on that very first pit line, you want that closer to the pit stall. You want the one in the middle, as far as your main pit line. That's the primary one that the AI will go by as far as how to navigate to pit road, and then they kind of navigate themselves to either the min pit or the max pit, depending on if they're coming in or out of their pit stall. But that's really the heart or the spine of all your pitting protocols for AI. You want to spread these out probably a little bit. So the fact that these are pretty close to the wall, if they wreck, this is probably why they're clipping into the wall. See how very close it is? This is the wall. That's probably why they're doing that. That's a little too close. You want to spread these out a little bit. Yeah, definitely want to probably spread these out. The other thing I want to look at is the LP or the limp lines, which you can access those. I gotta remember here. And this works much the same. The limp and the panic are more or less the same lines. It's just that the panic lines are separate, and the limp lines are. I can't remember how it works. Both the limp lines and the panic lines are basically the same lines. Let's put it that way. So to access that, we need to do left control 9. I had to look at my cheat sheet here. So left control 9. This brings up the panic lines. Majority of the time, what you want for panic lines, you want those to be the extreme of your inside. So I can already see that these are probably a little too close. And that might be why we're getting a lot of AI behavior like we are. So again, typically with your panic lines or your limp lines, you want to have those closer to the apron on the left and closer to the outside wall on the right. So the fact that these are pretty close to the race lines and whatever, that's probably not where we want those. And the way you make those, as far as the those two lines, you make them both independently, and then you end up naming them as just that line. It's a pretty simple process for that, as far as making that, because they are both in basically the same LP. But you make them at the same time, you know, I guess you could, for lack of a better way to put it. Yeah, but these definitely need to be fixed here. So that inside, that purple line, as far as the pink cones need to be closer to the inside wall, and the outside one needs to be closer to the outside wall. Is what needs to happen. And I think that's probably why we're getting a lot of erratic behavior of the AI. Right, riding the walls on the panic lines, right. Record those slow. Yeah, you can do those slow. That's probably another fair mention, as far as you can definitely, and that's all explained in the video. The only ones that has to be done at speed, to include the pit lines and all that, is the race line. And that's race LP, not necessarily race line, because the race line is basically, it's a copy of the race LP. And that basically shows the best line via depress of the R key. So if I do this, you can see in that race LP, that's showing in that middle line there, that's where the best line shows. That's what the race line LP is. That's, like I said, it's generally the copy of the race LP. Okay, so the fact that you have a race LP and a race line LP, the race line is what shows that actual best line. So again, by depress of the R key, that's what that R key is, as far as what the race line LP represents. Yeah, so there's definitely some adjustment needs to be made here on the pit LPs, as well as the panic lines. So what I can do is, because I don't need to do it at speed, let me go ahead and demonstrate. If I wanted to make some new LPs for this, just to kind of I'll run through the processor. So in order to turn on, now we've got the working LP on. What do you time out for? Oh, Magruder had a question? 4 messages were deleted. Who's, what'd I miss? Oh. So Rufio was talking about, oh, you put in a period, I guess, on the race line LP. Yeah, so the bot doesn't like periods. It sees those as links, that's probably why. So race line LP is also used for groove generation. No, it's not. That's 100% untrue. 100% untrue. So what creates the groove is basically your min and max races along with your race LP, not the race line. Okay, I want to make that abundantly clear. The race line, all that does is it creates, when you depress the R key in the sim, it creates that line. And it's, like I said, it's generally a copy of the race LP. Okay? Again, so when you create your race LP, that's basically where it stores all the data as far as the braking points, acceleration, all that stuff, and then you're going to get those different colors in that race line. That's why you typically want to use the race LP as a guide to create your race line LP. Okay, but the race line, that's all that serves for. Make that abundantly clear. What defines your groove in this case is both where your max race is, your min race, and your race LP. That's what defines your groove, as far as that dark area that you see on the track. That's what defines that groove. So even if you only create one groove as far as your race LP, it's going to be a really dark line all the way around the track in most cases, until you create those min and max arrays. So hopefully it creates more. It is not. It absolutely is not, Rufio. The race line does not create groove generation. I mean, I can probably definitely do that, but I can 100% guarantee that's not what creates it. So if you remove... Now, if you just can take that completely out, yeah, so the game still needs to have that. the race line, because it still needs that. So if that file doesn't exist, it's not going to give you an error or anything, or the track will crash. But it has to have that LP in there. All those LPs have to be in the track folder in order for that to get. But that's not 100% what generates the groove. That's all I want to make clear. So the fact if you're taking it completely out of the track, yeah, it's obviously going to show the groove wrong. That's the game's way of saying that there's a file missing. You can't completely leave the race line LP out. Okay. Well, I mean, you can argue all day long, I guess, as far as all that goes. You have to have the race line in there. Yes, that's 100% true. 100% true, because that's race line. What that does, the race line LP is what generates that best line when you by depressing the R key to get that best line, and which typically ends up being a copy of the race LP. So if you remove that completely from your track folder, yes, it's going to affect how the groove is going to be displayed. Okay, so I'm not going to argue with that, but to keep it more clear, what truly defines, I guess, so let's put it this way: if I put a race line LP in there, that's not a copy of the race LP, it'll still create that groove. That I can probably demonstrate. I mean, that's pretty easy enough to do. So if I just put a random race LP in there, that's from a similar track, for example, that doesn't line up, I guess, with the copy, I guess, of the race LP, it'll still generate that groove. It's just the game's way, the simulation's way of saying that the race line LP is not in the track. If you completely remove it, yeah, that's the only way to tell you that it needs to be in there, is that the groove is going to be jacked up. But you don't need to have it directly in the. The other thing I want to go through here is this whole process with creating new LPs here. So I want to go through this process here. So I already got my working LP on. Let's see here. I don't need to do these at speed. I just can't read my own chicken scratch here, I guess, as far as my... In fact, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. Let's do it this way. I wanted to do this anyway. I'm going to make this a part 2, I guess, of our stream here anyway. But I do want to close this up here relatively quickly here for the next 20 minutes or so. Let me do it this way. Let's go... There is a video that I have up on there, I've had up on there, and it should be on the YouTube. Let's go here. So let me get here a second. Let's go here. Don't need that. Alright, let's go to this here. Move tab in your window. Yeah, so if anything, I guess the clarification, I guess, for that you need to have all 4 of them in your track, but it's not necessarily for groove generation. The game will just doesn't like it, I guess, when you leave any one of those out, especially during a race session. When you're doing it in testing, it doesn't matter. You can load the track without having LPs in it at all. It's really when you get in the race weekend, the AI need all of those lines, and when they're not there, the game's kind of responds, I guess, negatively, I guess, when you don't do that. So we should have got plenty of playlists in here, I guess, for sandbox clips and so on. I do believe I do have this under this, but there's this tab under this playlist here, I guess, as far as for reflap. It was either under this or the sandbox clips, one of the two. Just gotta remember where I put it. It might be under the plenty of information on here as far as it gives you what's going on with things you'll need to, just hot clips as far as like what information you'll need for doing particular things. Most of this goes over 3D model creation. As far as in this playlist, I think I did put that in the... I just want to make sure it's here, because if it's not here, I want to make sure it gets in here. Let's go to sandbox clips here. Alright, this is how to get the shared stuff taken care of. Yeah, so all I'm basically trying to determine is to make sure if I don't have it in here, I want to make sure I get it in here. trying to get better at providing all the information. Let's see here. A lot of new stuff in here too that it just applied here as far as getting your camera position set up there by using Sandbox as well as the Cam Meta utility. So, hey, did Torch come back in? Oh, Magruder, you were trying to ask a question too. Yeah. I have not seen anything worth racing that is modifiable. What are we talking about? I guess I missed something there. I know I didn't want to miss your, what was your question there, Magruder? What does everyone feel about the future of custom car and track modding with recent movement of racing games in the last 4 years? I guess it just depends on developers. I mean, there's plenty of... Yeah, I mean, some of the developers that are out there, as far as like what they're doing, yeah, I mean, I've been having a lot of fun in Wreckfest. I know James is mentioning. Yeah, so as far as Wreckfest, I really wish I could get into being able to create some new cars and tracks, I guess, for simulations like Wreckfest, for example. I still haven't been able to really... I need to get the appropriate 3ds Max and whatever to be able to deal with that. As far as even to get plugins, I guess, for any other 3D modeling program, like Blender even. I've been messing around with Blender quite a bit. There just doesn't seem to be anything available there, so it's... Oh, you're on the phone. So Torch is there on the... yeah, so we're just... right now, Torch, I'm just ensuring that I do have the information in here as far as how to use a reflap utility. So far, I'm not seeing it on here. I don't know. I know it is on the SBP channel, but I wanted to make sure if it is not on here, that at least you have means to be able to get to it. Like I said, trying to get a little bit better providing that information. Yeah, this one here goes pretty much just into general editing as far as track on night editing, things like that, as well as 3D modeling, as far as being able to get things scripted properly. Alright, let me go to my main. Yeah, so I'm thinking that probably is more on the SPP channel. That's what I wanted to clarify. So there are plenty of playlists on here. So we should have... At least I should. I haven't been on this one yet. So I got a how-to section right here. And there's a lot of OG information on here, going all the way back as far... This is back from 2016. James goes over cutting process in 3ds Max. A lot of general stuff in here as far as how-tos. The reflap utility, or video should be in here on the SPP channel. New car file. Alright, what did I do with it? New car file saying. This shows you here as far as how to apply the mapping to Logitech wheels, as far as for the being able to stash, especially creating your race LP for sure. Alright, let's look at... Dang it, where did I got that darn thing? This is really bugging me now. What did I do with that video? It's probably a bad thing. I'm probably trying to find this now. Here, I thought it was on here the whole time. It's probably in here. It's probably staring right at me and I'm missing it. I see the video for assigning the reflap keystrokes, which is a secondary. Where the frick is my video on? I don't get it. I honestly don't get it. I'm just scratching my head here. I don't understand that. It makes no sense. It just shows me nothing in the streaming software, so it's obviously completely on the Twitch end. Let me refresh this. Should be back, I guess. I'll give it a few. At least it came back that time. What's really annoying is I can't control that. I can't control that other than the fact that I would have to change which servers that I connect to, I guess, on the Twitch end. Which right now I'm on the Chicago server. If the next closest one to me would be like Dallas. As far as in Texas there, that's much further away from me. So I'll give that a second, I guess, to y'all can let me know, I guess, when you're back. I'll give it a minute. Just everything's showing good on my end. Switch to dark mode. So yeah, see, Twitch must be doing some updates. Yeah, that's kind of terrible. So the fact that if they're doing some updates to their end, as far as their servers, as far as the way you know, the site is displayed and all that stuff, that's probably why. Don't even know how to switch that. If you don't like, I use dark mode myself, I'll be honest. I like dark mode better than light mode. But usually to switch that, if you're on PC there, James, you want to go up to oh shoot, I'm on the wrong screen here. Yeah, you can usually go up to the top right, as far as over where your avatar is, the top right of the browser, and way down towards the bottom where your logout would be, you can switch it from dark to light. So just above, in my case here, it's just above where I would log out. That's where it would be. Yeah, I like the dark mode better, honestly. Hurting your eyes on the dark mode? Well, I guess it depends on, yeah. I guess what's kind of nice about the fact that you can go back and forth between the two. Yeah, that's obviously, now if it's doing that tells me 100% so that they're it's on Twitch's end, and there's nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. All right. Anyway, getting back to what I was trying to do here. I was trying to ensure that I have that, that I do have that video on here as far as the reflap utility. Now this is on the SBP site, as far as the playlists on here. Let's see if I can go back one here. And there's plenty of information here, but what I'm not seeing, and that kind of bothers me. Let's go into videos here. It should have had that in the playlist, but here's the video right here. I'm not sure why it's not showing up in that, but this is the video on the SBP site. You can get to that from the Rock Nation YouTube. I've got that one separate, I guess, as far as all the other things. So there's still these things here on the SBP site, for Safe and Barrier website, that shows these processes here. This is a very old video. I might even consider redoing this. It's very crappy quality. You know, as far as what I had back then, but it does explain quite a bit as far as how to and do all the things that I'm doing. Yeah, so I'm still in the game here. But what I wanted to show, I forgot what I was trying to do there, to be honest. I think I was trying to show, with everything going on here, it was just kind of all helter-skelter here. Oh, I know what I want to do as far as the shortcut keys. That's what it was. So I should have had... Yeah, here it is right here. So right in the comments here for that video, that shows how to use the reflap utility. It's got all the controls in here that show you how to toggle as far as the stash, start to stashing and all that good stuff, as well as how to access the LPs once they're created. So all that information is right in the comment sections of that video. That's what I wanted to show. So what I want to do while I'm in the game here is go through the process of how you stash that. Now the fact that you do not need to do these anything other than the race LP. That's the only one you need to do at speed. The other ones you don't. So that's why I want to kind of show here. So while we're in this mode, I'll get this out of pause. Hello? Let's just get out of the car. We'll go ahead and get back in here. Alright. So we still got all this stuff loaded up in here, so we can go ahead and reset this. Alright, so let's so with all this on, you need to have that that working reflap on, which we already do. That's the orange cones. So in order to stash here, you have to use the crap, I forgot what it was. I want to say it was left control R, or was it left alt R? That's what I can't remember. But it's got that, yeah, it's left alt R. So you can set that up, and that's the video that I have, the secondary video that shows how to map that button as far as the two keystrokes, because it's very hard, I guess, to be able to do the alt R while you're driving. Some people are pretty coordinated in that. I know I'm not. So the fact that you can be able to map that, right? You can map that to your wheel, so that as you're driving, you can just push a button, whatever, and it actually does that keystroke. So in this case here, since I don't have to do this at speed for these, I'm gonna go ahead and do it this way. So this, when they turn yellow like that, that's when you're stashing. So in this case here, I want to create some panic lines. So I'm gonna put this closer to the apron here, so it's out of the racing groove, but not touching any the other LPs. So I got all these other LPs on, so I'm going by the one that I have. So I'm kind of splitting the difference between the one that's currently there and what's already there. If you can help it, now once we adjust these pit LPs, you won't have that much of a problem. But you definitely want to have these panic lines and limp lines, I guess, established. Now I can go a lot slower than this, obviously, to make it a little bit more. I'm kind of doing this a little faster than I want to. But you can do this as fast or slow as you want. Just keeping in mind, just to kind of keep it more fluid. You generally do not want to have the panic lines or the limp lines to go through the pits. Not a good idea, because you will definitely get wrecks or whatever going through the pits. If an AI car is like trying to get out of the racing groove, that's all the panic lines and the limp lines are basically for. Like if they're really wrecked, they'll navigate to that line before they'll eventually navigate themselves to the pit line. So that's kind of their means of being able. So having that closer to the extremes.
Hit the pace car! Hit the pace car! Hit the pace car! What for?
Yeah, what for? How are we doing here, Chavez? Literally drive 30 miles. Yeah, I mean, you can drive these as fast as you want, but you can go over it. So I'm going to drive this over again, just to kind of show. I'm going to see where I place these down here. And then once you're done, as far as when you're satisfied with that stashing, you can just Alt-R again and turn it off. So I'll just go back through here again. I kind of screwed up that one there, so this is probably not going to be a very good panic LP. I'll probably go around one more time. Like I said, you can go around with doing these at less than speed, I guess you could say, is you can go around as many laps as you need to till you're satisfied with how it's laid out. But at the top right of the screen, I know that might be kind of hard to see. It is giving you information as far as how long that stashing is, as far as time-wise, in length and so on. So it is letting me know that it's stashing. That's the key thing to look at there. So if that's not increasing, I guess, in value up at the top right there, then you're not stashing. So that's something to pay attention to, I guess, as far as to determine whether or not you're stashing or not. So I'm going to kind of hug this apron right here, and I want to correct the trajectory, I guess, on the back stretch there a little bit. I was trying to It's kind of throwing me off a little bit, I guess, as far as the way those pit lines are. So that's why I kind of went off not where I wanted to. I'm going to see if I can cross over here and kind of hug this wall. So I can kind of slow up here. So if you go different speeds as far as in the process of trying to create this, it doesn't matter. These are basically just pathways, I guess, for the AI. Damn, Chavez, he's coming in. How many biddies was that? Holy crap. Gonna get some hype out there for Chavez and the biddies. Thank you for the biddies there, Chavez. Coming in like a boss with the biddies. If you got the emotes out there, definitely spam the emotes. Exclamation point hype in the chat for the biddies. Please and thank you. Yeah, so we got the wing foot going around. We're in testing mode. Obviously, like as we have already proven earlier, it's not scripted. I guess to only do it in the race weekend. There we go. We got some hype out there. Where'd everybody go? Heck yeah. Thank you there, Chavez. I appreciate that. Alright, so I'm going to be satisfied with this one now. Yeah, so at least the stream didn't completely die. It just had a little bit of a hiccup there. So let's do Alt-R. Turn that off. Alright, now what I want to do is I want to save that to the working reflap. So it's going to shift up. That orange cones are going to shift right where I just stashed those. So the way to move that over to that line, I got to do a / and it's going to move those orange lines for that stash. Now if I want to save it, I want to do a control / and it'll tell me up at the top there that I resaved it as, in this case, it's reflap 0. Now those will be in succession. So the first one will be reflap 0, and it'll go in succession. So with every other reflap that I make, it'll go up 0, 1, 2, and so on. So you need to make note as far as which reflap is what. So in this case here, this is going to be a part of the panic lines, and I'll use this as the min panic, for example. Okay, so I'm just going to take note of that. So I'm only going to make one other LP for the max panic. So I'll go up at the top of this track here, and I'll do the Alt-R again. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do Alt-R, and we'll start stashing for the max panic line. Now once we create these max panic lines, we'll be able to use that as our limp as well, and vice versa. So we'll have these two separate lines. We'll be able to combine those, and I'll show this process. I'll go through that motion, I guess, anyway, kind of at that point. So I just kind of want to hug the wall here, and like James says, you can, he usually generally takes it at 30 miles an hour or whatever like that. You can go as slow or as fast as you want, but you can go around and stash as many times as you need to get in the position that you want it, that it should be. Chavez playing the slots there. I guess that playlist did stop there. It's right better. Probably need to have that off anyway. So a lot of this is pretty much review as you watch the video there, and I'll probably redo that video to kind of go through that process there to include, I guess, as far as how to map those items to the wheel. Particularly, I go over as far as using the Logitech wheels. In my case, it's the G27. So, ooh, Chavez almost got the. So if you scrape the wall a little bit, that's probably fine. I kind of shoot. I'll probably go around again. I'm probably going a little too fast. Slower is probably better when you're doing these. Yeah, definitely slower if you want to not have a big. It should be coming up to where I started here in a minute. Yeah, there it is. There we go. So Chavez Torch got one of the earliest jackpots as far as the start of the initial stream there. That was kind of crazy. Scolding, you got nothing. Bot says, nope, you already got a jackpot there, buddy. Don't think so. Yeah, so if you scrape the wall a little bit, that's fine. Now, just keeping in mind, that's exactly what the AI will do as well, as far as they'll scrape the wall, just much the same as you would in creating it. So if you're doing it as you create it, the AI will definitely do it as well, as far as to scrape the wall in that case. So I'll go a little bit slower here. So the fact that I'm not doing this, I am using the wheel, but I don't have the profile set up to where I got that button set up to be able to push it as far as the stash. I don't know, that Alt-R combination. Don't really need it. It comes in handy, I guess, if you've got it for doing these types of LPs. Not a big deal, but whether you have it or not, it's not too bad. Yeah, so I'm kind of pegging a wall there a little bit. Alright, this is where I really need to fix it here. It's like I got way out of shape. It's going to keep it more closer to the wall. That works a little better. Now as I get to where I started here, I'm going to turn this stashing off. Yeah, I think I get a little bit of scraping by the AI. It will be alright. It's not too bad. Get it up there as high as you can though. So this is where we want to stop it. So let's do an Alt-R. And we're done stashing. So now what we want to do is do a /. Move that to there. Am I still stashing? I am still stashing. I thought I turned it off. Oh, crap. Alright, so I didn't save anything yet. So I'll probably go over it again one more time. I thought I turned it off. Son of a gun, anyway. Sure didn't. Alright. I sure didn't. This is where having the button, the key combo on the map button on the wheel would probably help. Oh well, I'll go ahead and follow this one more time, and I'll go ahead and... I guess I didn't get it all pressed properly. So I am definitely still stashing. Alright, we'll go around one more time. Now, if I would have stopped it right there and saved it the way it was there, it would have had a pretty wicked panic line. As far as when I kind of peeled off there and it was still stashing. So I don't want that. That's going to be an ugly panic line. Definitely know that from experience, so I'll just go ahead and just keep stashing here. I'll just follow this orange line. I've got it moved. Now, I only moved it over to the working reflap. I did not save it yet, so it didn't generate an LP file as far as in the. And all it does is it puts those LP files when you save them right in the track folder within your game directory where you have your track installed. That's where it puts those files, and I'll show that here once I get out of here. We'll go all the way around here until we get to that ending point, and hopefully we can get the stashing turned off correctly. Alright, so we're getting back to where we started. Right up on here. And we'll go ahead and turn it off again. Yeah, if we're banging a wall a little bit. So, yeah, see how ugly that is? We definitely don't want that. That would have definitely, if we would have saved that, that's where that would have. We don't want that. Let's just kind of merge this in here like so. And we'll call it good right there. So we'll do, I think I did a Control-R instead of an Alt-R. Yep, now it's off. Cool. Now let's go ahead and do a / and I'll put that newly stashed line. Now we want to save it, so we do left control /. Now let's save that as reflap 1. It's hard to see there, I understand, as far as in the top right corner, but that's telling me that it saved it as reflap 1. So now I've got the 2 reflaps for the min and max panic. Now we'll go ahead and get out of this, and we're going to go ahead and create the create those lines. So we'll go like this, back, in. Now, I gotta refresh my own memory as far as how to, yeah, so that was that information I was showing in the video. That shows all the shortcuts for that. That's the only means. I do have this also in the Rock Nation Discord, as far as this information, as far as Inner 2003 editing, but I also included it in here. But I will be considering redoing this video. This is back from 17, so it's a good 3 years old, and I got better quality than that now at this point. Let's do this. Alright. Cool. So the fact that it didn't crash the stream that time around, it just kind of burped a little bit. We're still going to consider this to be part 2. I'll have to remember to keep a notation, I guess, in the stream here that that's what was going on there. Okay, so now we got to go to our game track folder. We already determined all this, the changes that we made here as far as the backups. We don't really need those anymore. We can probably do that cleanup. So this new DAT file, and our track I are good to go. So the reflaps that we just created here should be right here. So we got the reflap 0, which was our min panic, and our new max panic. Now what I want to do is we should have a min panic right here and a max panic. That should be, do we have a max panic? Should be. It loaded. Yeah, right here. So what I want to do is back these up. I want to back these two up. So I do backup and min panic. So right here, we'll go ahead and back that one up. Now I could necessarily just go ahead and trash those because I know from what we've seen, loading them up, toggling them up in the reflap, we know they're no good. So you can't necessarily just trash those two. That's totally up to you. I usually like to keep the original files just to kind of see what I did from one point to the next, just to keep a histogram of it until I'm 100% done with everything. What I done, I'll scrap all that stuff out. That is to your however you want to do it. That's totally up to you. So this reflap 0, I want to make this the best way to do this. I'm gonna do it this way. It's probably what I nope, that's not what I wanted. I'm gonna go into properties. So what I want to do, so I get the right name of this, I don't really need the extension. So just to make sure I get the proper name of this, I'm going to do min. You can type it in there, it's no problem. So I'll show it both ways. I'm going to rename this one here. Take that out and paste that. So this is one way you can go about it to make sure you get the right name of it. So that's our new. Oh, whoops! I did the wrong one. Shoot, screwed that up. Here, let me rename this real quick. This is supposed to be the min padding. So I'm just gonna go ahead and manually type this now. So whether or not you copy pasta, I guess as far as the name of it, or just manually rename it like this, I just wanted to make sure I get the right name to it. So this was our min padding. That was the reflap 0 and the reflap 2. In this case, reflap 1. So it goes 0, 1, 2, and so on successively. So that was our min panic. This is going to be our max panic. So we'll do a rename, and I'll just really label this one as max panic. Yep, I'm going to keep that extension. Max panic. Now, when we go back into the sim, we'll be able to see that purple lines be exactly where this point. Now, once we create, what'll happen now that I've got these panic lines established, what'll happen now is the game will generate that limp file based on these min and what did I do? On the min and max panic. That's how it creates the limp file. So it basically uses that and it combines those two based on those two LPs, and we'll be able to see that. You can access the limp file. Got to remember which one that was now. Maybe that was the one of them there. I can't remember now. My memory eludes me. I think the limp file, you're not able to access that one. But basically what it ends up being is a combination of both the min and max panic. In fact, do we have even a limp file in here? There's not even a limp file in here. That's interesting. Alright, let me look at default Dover, for example. I'm going to look at default Dover here real quick. There should be a limp file in here. Yeah, so this limp LP, that should be a combination of both the max and min panic. Okay. So the fact that we do not have a limp file, a limp LP in this track. That is interesting. So what I will be able to do, if you don't have a limp file, what you'll be able to do is once you go into the reflap and load up the panic files, which is basically a left control 9, that brings them both up at once. You'll be able to save that as a reflap. You'll move that over to your working reflap, and you should be able to save that. That's if you don't have one. So that's what I'm noticing here. We do not have a limp LP in here. And that might be another reason why we're having such erratic AI behavior, because that is not in here. Okay, so what we'll do now is go back into the sim. It's been a while since I've had to make a new limp file, so this might be a little bit of a refresher course for myself. Just keep that in mind. But that at least kind of shows you as far as how you would make the min and max panic. So when we go into here now, it'll show those two purple lines. When I load that up in the reflap, that's going to show those two new lines as opposed to what was previously in there. So let's go into testing session. Load this up. Yep. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I want to go drive. There we go. So we're still in Jesus mode. We got the best line in there. We'll turn that off. Let's do our control, alt, left shift, tilde. I know it's a lot of keystrokes, but that's how you got to enable the reflap. So you see that information up at the top left. That's how you know that's on. And then to turn on the working reflap, again, I got to refresh my memory. Always forget. So to toggle that one is control tilde, left control tilde. That turns the orange cones on. Now what we will do is do control 9. This should have our new LPs. It should. Now if it don't, we did something wrong. I think we did something wrong. We definitely did something wrong. Holy mackerel. So it did the outside line fine, but it did not do... Did I name that wrong? I might have, so we have to go check that. So it looks like it did the outside line fine. This is how we'll check it at least anyway. The outside line looks fine. Inside line. So that the min panic is not right. So I might have screwed that one up. Yeah, because it should be closer to the apron. And it's not. So we're closer to the race line, actually. Yeah, definitely not good. Alright, so we gotta go check that outside there. We might have not named that correctly. That's very possible. Very, very possible. So we'll go ahead and go back out to this one. We'll check that out. More or less, that's probably what happened. I did not name the min panic correctly. Let's see here. Sure didn't. I named it Mon Panic, M-O-N. Yep, big typo there. So let's rename that properly. So I guess my manual typing there was not very good. So we got their max panic and min panic. So now when we go in there, it should load that up there. Let's try that again. Panicmon, yes. Alright, let's go back into testing. So you might run into the same types of issues that I'm running into, so that's probably good critique on here. Sounds Jamaican. Jamaica-mon, yeah. Alright, so let's go ahead and load this back up. Go back into testing mode here. Drive. Alright, turn it back on. Control, Alt, Shift, tilde. And then our Control, tilde. We don't really need the working reflap, but what I wanted to try and do is save that limp file. Because basically it's just because it's just a 1 LP. You can necessarily, I guess now that I say this, you don't necessarily have to use the panic. You can create that LP separately, just as a separate LP, and name it limp. You can do that too. But the limp file generally relies on, I guess, as far as you don't want it to be in the race groove, for example, or the pit grooves. So that's just something to take in. And you can't really toggle based on the reflap as far as the limp LP. The only one you can toggle in this case is just the min and max panic, which load in both at the same time. So do Control 9. See, now we're where we should be. Now that I renamed that. So that's at least a couple different ways you can make a limp LP. You can make it separate. and just do it that way. But generally you want the limp, it's going to be the copy of this here. So what you should be able to do, yeah, this is definitely looking better. Definitely good, better panic lines. Let me do... that's probably not going to work because you have to stash in order to transfer it over to... Crap. You know, the heck with it. I'm just going to take... Yeah. Alright, so now that we confirmed that that's good... I'm trying to refresh my memory how I did the limp file before. There's a way to combine those, and I'm having a brain fart right now. Hate when it happens. I'm really having a brain fart, I'm going to be honest. Alright, let's go ahead and get out of this. So now with that established, we got those two done. I might be thinking of this wrong. The min and max panics, as we can see, it's in... It basically takes these two, when you toggle them on, they come on both at the same time. So to make a limp, you can more or less probably use either your min panic or your max panic. So in this case, I'll probably go with the max panic. That's really what it probably comes down to. This is just going by solely by memory. It's really a preference as to whether or not you want them to limp to the outside of the track or the inside. Generally, when you think in terms of if you want them to get to the pits, you probably want them to limp to the min panic. That way they will eventually navigate their way, I guess, so instead of doing it on the outside, because if you have them limp from the outside, they run the risk, I guess, as far as running right across the entire track, as far as to cut the leaders off. You probably don't want to do that. So if they're on the apron, as far as closer to where the pit LPs are, that's probably your better option as far as creating a limp LP. So in this case, I'll probably go by the min panic as opposed to the max panic, which is to the outside wall. You always copy the main pit line and make that limp. You can do that too. It's really just a matter of preference. Because if you want them, basically the general idea behind the limp is you want them to be able to make their way back to the pits. So yeah, if you do use that one, I guess as far as to determine your limp file, I'll leave that up to Torch as far as like what he wants to do with that. You can make that separate though. So for example, if you don't want to use exactly a line like the pit line or the min panic, for example, you can create that line by stashing it, save it as a reflap, and then just label it as limp. So you can do that too. I won't go through that process. I think we kind of get the gist of that, how that works at least anyway. So if anything here, it kind of gives me more clarification than I do not have. There's still plenty of information that is on the SPP site as far as like use of the reflap. I also have a link to how to set that up here, so I'll just click on that. So this goes into the video. This is back from 15. That shows you how to map that button to your Logitech wheel. So that's at least some information that you can use at your disposal to help that process, especially that setting that button on the wheel, like I've said, will help with the process of that race line, establishing that race line, because doing that key combination while you're driving, I don't know about some of you folks, but I'm not that coordinated to be able to hit all R while I'm driving and be focused and not mess up that race line. There's only so much you can do, I guess, as far as to correct any anomalies, I guess, in your race LP, I guess, by doing it that way. I'll fix those this week. Oh, Torch is still with us here. Cool. So he must be still on mobile. Yeah. So that's just something a little bit. And obviously, I think, like I said, with all that being talked about, that's part of the reason why I think we're getting that erratic behavior that we noticed when I was trying to work my way through the field on the tractor. Was them trying to pit and all that stuff like that. And I did notice them, kind of crossing themselves into clipping into trying to get to pit road. They weren't able to navigate very well, and that has a lot to do with the pit LPs, the panic LPs, and probably the limp not being there. So once those are all established and realigned and whatever like that, I think we'll have that'll be much more cleared up. So what I've seen so far, as far as the layout of the new starting grid, it's obviously there. Just you need to swap the inside and outside line. I already showed that. Everything else that's done, I showed some potential optimization to the wing foot, which can do or not. That's totally. I don't think it's really going to gain or lose anything off the track. We do have some adjustments to be made in the geometric walls to accommodate the safer foam. So that's, I've kind of already gone through that process. And as James and I both know, there's really no other easier way, I guess, to get through that. But I think it gives you a solid guideline, I guess, as far as, especially if you're building your 3D block foam for the safer properly to spec. That one is not going to change when you put that in there. So if you're having it in that direct orientation, I guess, as far as on that bottom edge spline of that one outside of the outside wall, and you've got that all in the proper position, you know exactly how to adjust those outside walls, I guess, to be able to accommodate that foam and get the walls to the proper size. So that's going to be a little bit of a process. So on both ends of the track, in particular, as far as turns 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, there's plenty of adjustment that needs to be made on that. So I think that's pretty much all that I have. This is going to be the conclusion, I guess, of part 2, I guess, of the stream there. As much as I'm just checking everything out here to make sure everything was running smooth there. So we did have some hiccups there, I guess, in the stream. There's really not much I can do about that. That's all on the Twitch end. James, when you were mentioning as far as the fact that it changed to dark mode from you, that tells me that's all on the Twitch end. There is nothing I can do about that, unfortunately. So, not trying to defend myself, I guess maybe a little bit, but if there was anything I could do about it, I would definitely do that. So hopefully that's understood. Alright, let's do that. So yeah, I got a little bit of cleanup to do on my end. Obviously, Torch, you got some homework. So I'll leave that up to you, I guess, as far as to collect on it. You got a little bit to do. Hopefully we'll be able to look forward to that for next stream and next Saturday. I'll have the 2 parts in here. I'll probably more or less just keep these 2 streams in 2 parts. As far as the first half, I'll just have to notate it in there as far as like that. I want to keep these usually at no more than 4 hours, so it's not incredibly too dragging out. But I do appreciate everybody that did stop by here for us. I know Rufio had given us some insight, I guess, as far as the establishment, I guess, of all. You got to have all those LPs in the track in order for the game to actually recognize the groove. We'll kind of leave it at that point. That was pretty good insight as far as from somebody else, I guess, that has had the experience, I guess, as far as doing this type of process. Chavez came in here, I guess, with, it was 500 bits. I'm just getting caught up, I guess, on some of the activity here. I know I missed a lot of that as far as like what that is. I appreciate that, Chavez. You're fantastic. Hope you're doing well out there. Yeah, I think that's where I'm going to bring it from. I'm just looking for a potential raid target here, so if y'all want to hang around with me just for a bit, I'm going to see if I can pass this on to, I think I know where I want to go. Let's, let me set up this raid here. I'll go switch this over to raid screen. I think you'll enjoy this chap. He's pretty cool. He likes to play with a lot of toys and farm sim. Yeah, I think he deserves like that. I've been doing a little bit of work with him and farm sim stuff as far as just to have some, creating some toys, as far as some monster trucks and things like that. So, yeah, feel free to stick around for that raid. I appreciate it if you do. And if not, that's perfectly okay as well. Again, I want to thank everybody that did their, obviously Chavez for the bits. Obviously it's going to miss all that, the resubs. He had Torch came in as well as James, so that's unfortunate. Apologize for that. Wish if there was some way I could regenerate that, I would. Again, I apologize for that, but I do appreciate it, I guess, as far as the resubs to the channel. Torch there with 15 months, and James with the 23 months already so far. That's just amazing. I appreciate it very much. So let me get this. So that's what's not showing in the credits there, at least anyway. So I want to make that. I'll do that a vocal credit. Again, appreciate that. Let's go ahead and set this up here. So we go. I always screw up sometimes on there. So the way Twitch has been here, not even 100% sure that this will go through. But I will make sure that I put the link out here to where I'm sending you all, just in case it doesn't go through. So let me do that real quick. And if I don't see you in the raid, as far as in the channel there, I guess going into the raid, I hope you have all a wonderful rest of your weekend. And I will be streaming no later than Wednesday for Wreckfest Wednesday. I'm going to be continuing on the quest for the Season 5 tournament aspect there. So I hope to see you again for there. With all that being said, I want to say bye for now.